Next book I'm going to read Raspberry on the Yangtze, I think is how you might say that. Which is a very short book, but I just need to read something today or right now. It's 150 pages. I just kind of need something to do, I've just been not feeling it, not feeling like reading and but kind of like wanting to read, but not really it's like a beautiful, warm afternoon. I can lay in my bed or on top of my bed and read a little bit of a book, right? We love that. I don't know what this book is about. It's something like from Canada. I think it's about like Canadian culture, maybe about like I don't know. I don't know if it's like about Canadian culture, but it's like it mentions specifically that it's about Canada. It says in the backwoods of Quebec, and I think Quebec is like a city, so I don't know if that's like meant to mean that it's like a city or like a farm. It looks like it's a farm on the front. By the way, I also love this cover because it has like the sparkles. I think this is really cute because I like the I don't know, I guess like collage effect that it gives. Oh, by the way, this is by Karen Wallace. It says, filled with sparkling ideas and vivid dialogue, Raspberries on the Yanks is the story of a summer when old dreams are shattered and new dreams are born. So I guess it's like kind of about growing up and about summer and yeah. Go to read that. I have literally out of all of them, all of the books that were on my TBR, I think this is the one that I know the least about. I have never picked this up. I was given this, I'm pretty sure, by my American friend. When I was very little, we had an American babysitter, and we had, like, specifically she came to us because we wanted to keep our English intact when we came back from England, which isn't relevant, but the point is she was very nice, and I liked her very much, and she's great. And she gave me this, I think. So I'm going to read this. I'm probably going to read this like today and then finish it today. And I like raspberries, so ideal. I should have some to eat while I'm reading. That would be so peak. Okay, I literally like just turned the camera off and then I read the first page and it's like the first line on the first page is, "It all began the day my brother and I decided to poison our mother." Okay, I thought that this was going to be something like sweet and cute and something that this picture really makes sense with. Can you see that? Anyway, like farmy, cutesy, homey. I don't know how to describe it. I thought that was going to be what it is, but apparently it's some kind of a murder mystery. Probably not, but thought it was very, very funny. I just finished Raspberries on the Yanks by Karen Wallace. I'm so glad that I read this. This is so good. This is a sort of coming of age story for, like little kids. I don't know how old the main character is meant to be. I think probably like 7 or 8. And it's just when you're like starting to learn about grown up things and in that kind of strange period where you know that something is going on, but you don't know what it is or something is going on, but you don't know all the context for it because your parents won't tell you to shelter you, which makes it more difficult because it would make more sense, and it would be less daunting and strange, and this whole new experience if you were told. If you were told the context, and if you were being talked to by your parents. But oh, it's very good. It's very good. It's about a very curious young girl as well, and she's so fleshed out. It's in first person, and I've just come off reading Sophie's World by Jostein Gjerder, and the difference is staggering, because that's also about a young girl, about like a 14-year-old, and the difference is staggering, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because this is definitely meant to be a story, and that isn't really meant to be a story. The way that this character is written is so vivid. It's very vivid, the way that the character is written. With the other one, it's like they keep telling me things about the character, but it's still like a very 2D kind of thing, and this girl is so fleshed out, even though it isn't... Nowhere is it stated that she's this kind of person or that kind of person, except for actually one bit. This is when she's like talking about being in a clothes store, and the girl who worked there followed her into the dressing room, and she says, I was definitely the "I'm sorry I ripped it by accident" type, talking about clothes that she's buying in a store, and having to be followed, or like having the shop girls follow her because she's so chaotic and they know that she's going to do something wrong. Anyway, just things like that that are so creatively phrased to flesh out this character. And this is only 150 pages. Like, wow, I'm just kind of blown away by this. This was so good. And this was so good, even though it's written for children and I'm an adult. I think reading this as someone who's already gone through it and then some is really interesting, because there's something so nostalgic about it, and there's something so entrancing about being transported into the problems that the main character faces. Because, of course, with my knowledge now, I know that they aren't problems, and I know what actually is going on, and I can figure it out for myself. But I think this is so interesting because this is written for girls her age, maybe a little bit older than her, and I think reading it when you're that age, and when you've just experienced, the learning of new things, the learning what certain things mean in the world, like death, sex, love, all those things, not having learned them through experience, but having learned them through, through someone telling you them. So having just gone through that and reading this, you could really find yourself in it. But then having read it at this age, I think it's also very interesting because there's so much more that you get from this then as well. I think that's what makes this book so good, is that it's written for children, but it didn't feel like reading a children's book. It's written in first person, so you do kind of get that feeling of, the words that she uses are a little bit easy and simple and like things like that. But so, of course, it's still like a children's book. It's a children's book. But it doesn't feel, boring or like you can't relate to it. I don't know. I can not recommend this more. Really and truly and honestly, this is... I love this. I love this. I didn't think I was going to for some reason, but this is amazing. This is just amazing. I just can't tell you how much I like this. Everybody needs to go read it immediately. That is that's my honest opinion on it. That's the review. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I just went to the charity bookstore near my house, near-ish my house, and I am going to give you a little bit of a book haul. Now, I know that I'm doing a challenge where I read all of my unread books, but can you ever resist? I got 6 books for €21, so, I'm not that mad. I'm going to give you, a haul. First of all, this is the overview of books, you know, the thumbnails that are like, that's my thumbnail. Probably not. Okay, this is the overview of books. I went to the bookstore in Belgium because that's where I live. So a lot of books in those bookstores, in any bookstores in Belgium, but especially the second-hand ones, because are Dutch. I didn't get any Dutch, but I didn't get any Dutch books because I don't like to read that, because often those Dutch books are actually translated from English, and there's this whole, I'm not going to get into it, but the Dutch that we speak and the Dutch that is proper Dutch, and that books are translated into, is not the same. So books written by Belgian authors and Dutch authors, honestly, as well, are a whole lot different than from translated books. And the translated books, to me, because I don't speak that Dutch, sound really stilted. So I don't like to read translated books, is the point. Translated to Dutch from English, at any rate. I think these are all English, from English authors. Actually, this one might not be. This one's English, and then, yeah, of course, that one's English. So, I don't know. These are just the English books that they have, and I strangely did get 6 books out of that. And there was one that I put back because I was like, let's keep it a little bit normal. So let's just get into it. Number 1, this is a very bad cover. This is called Household Gods by Judith Tarr and Harry Turtledove. Fantastic name. Probably not his real name, but fantastic name anyway. This is because I kind of want to diversify my reading of fantasy, like the things that I read within fantasy. Because this one doesn't sound like I wouldn't have picked this up if I wasn't already trying to diversify my reading, because this is not really something that I would usually gravitate towards. So what this is about is it's about a woman who is really not happy with her life in our time. She's just a normal old woman, not old, she's just a regular woman doing her business, fed up with sexism, and then one day she finds herself in the life of a Roman, I guess, a widowed tavern keeper on the Roman frontier around 170 AD. So, and then she discovers that she actually hates her life as a widowed tavern keeper as well, and that they all have problems. I don't know, this is not high literature or anything. I don't have any high literature. I'll get into it. This is just, it kind of sounds like it would be really fun, and to be honest, I'm not mega into Roman. Actually, no, that's not true. I don't like Roman and Greek myths and gods, but I do really like the life style, I guess. I like learning about that stuff. I'm fed up with gods and myths because I took Greek and Latin and I just don't care. But the culture and lifestyle actually does interest me. And obviously with that comes the gods, but from a perspective of a person in that life, I don't care about I just don't care about the myths. That's all I'm saying. Wow, this got so angry. So, I don't know, I think this could be fun. I just think it's a very different, a real departure from what I usually read. And, that's why you go to charity bookstores, because you can't just go and find, oh, I want to read this author. I'm going to go through the, line of books till I find him. You have to, pick up books and see if they interest you or not. And that's interesting, I guess. So, in that line, I picked up, what is it called? Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. I don't read science fiction. Every time I read science fiction, I am so mega disappointed. I read The Rig recently. I half read The Rig recently. It wasn't good. I didn't like it. It's not that it wasn't good, it's that I didn't like it. I think maybe, perhaps, more classic science fiction will interest me more, and otherwise I'm just, at one point, I'm seriously going to have to stop buying books that I know I won't like. Anyway, this is science fiction. This is, I'm not sure what this is like about. Like the back is pretty vague, I guess. I mean, it's about a new, what is it? A new era of invention and prosperity brings hope and peace. So, you know, it's like, it's pretty, it's just sci-fi, you know, like, but I don't know. I'll read this and I'll tell you. This is also short, which is, they had like Asimov's sci-fi books, but I don't want to like read a long thing just to see if I like it. So this is only 200 pages, which is kind of why I picked it. And because it's got like a review by C.S. Lewis. And yes, I do in fact like C.S. Lewis. By the way, I have to read his sci-fi stuff as well for my TBR challenge. So, I mean, I'll make a video about it, obviously, but it's over there. Then, I don't know what genre this is. Is supernatural like a genre? I don't know. This is, like, supernatural stories. I guess it's, like, maybe horror, I guess. But these are short stories, I think. Yeah, I always think that I don't like short stories, but then I remember that I don't read short stories, so I don't know if I like them or not. And frankly, to be really honest, I love this cover. I feel like this is an etch or something. An etching is maybe how you say it in English. There was another cover kind of like this, but probably lino, which I almost bought the book just because I loved the cover, and it had like an inside page as well, which was beautiful. Anyway, I didn't buy that as well. That was short stories as well, actually. That's why I didn't buy it. Anyway, this is supernatural stories, short stories. It's, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what each short story is about. I don't think they say that. Do they say that? Maybe not. Maybe they do. It says it's like a ghost story, because it's like supernatural stories, like in the introduction. I mean, I actually really like this. I don't think there's enough like white space, to be honest, but the font is really calming. Does that make any sense? I don't know. I like the font, and I like this. I like the heft of this book, the weight of this book. Anyway, going to read this as well. Probably not anytime soon, but if I read it soon, well, actually no, because I'm going on a weekend trip with my mum to Paris. We're going by car, so I will have some time to read, and I will probably read this instead of one of the books that I like have to read. By the way, I don't have to read any of the books. It's not like I'm forcing myself. It's just I want to read them so I can decide whether they need to leave or not. And by the way, I'm having a great time. Anyway, I just feel like I keep saying I have to read them. Like I don't want to, but I do want to. Moving on, we have Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Woe. It also doesn't say what this is about, but I don't like. Well, I guess I know what this is about. I didn't see the TV show, but I saw the new movie with Ben Whishaw. So it's about like this guy who is in love with this other guy's sister, or in love. He like wants to seduce her. It's not really love, and then he kind of develops this sort of relationship with the brother of the sister. You know what I mean? Okay, so I think this is probably the sister. This is the guy who wants to develop a relationship with her and ends up developing a relationship with him, who is her brother. That's the lowdown. I'm just going to read all of the gay classics. That's kind of just the thing. I mean, I saw the movie and I wanted to read the book, but I never ended up buying one. Like, I kept seeing these beautiful, like, classics editions, and obviously this is a movie cover, which is so strange that there's, like, classics with movie covers. Anyway, but my mum was like, do we not have that at home? And then every time I was like, no, but are you sure? No, I'm not sure, I'll go check. And then every time we don't have it. So, and this one was only €3, so whatever, I just got it. This is, like, a whole lot different than all of the other ones. All of the other ones feel a lot more entertaining, and this one's a lot more of a classic. I have another classic as well. I'll show you that one now. I have Peter Pan and Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens by J.M. Barrie. I'll be really honest with you. I bought this because I really like Murphy Napier, I think is how you would say her last name. I really like her channel, and I really like the recommendations that she gives, and she really likes this book. So I bought it because of her. That sounds so obsessive and like not a good business or financial decision. I don't know, I also want to like read more classics because I started reading those classics, like I read The Bell Jar, and then now I'm reading, what's it called, Secret Garden, and I read The Great Gatsby. Wow, these names are not hard to remember. Anyway, I read all of those and none of them suited me, so I'm trying to find a classic that suits me because, well, actually, Secret Garden is pretty good, so I think children's classics might be better. I don't know. The point is, I don't like classics, and I don't know why classics are classics. So, just like with science fiction, I'm trying to find a classic or a book in general that suits me and that makes me enjoy the genre. I don't feel like classic is a genre, but like, you know what I mean. Just because I want to experience those stories as well, but in a way that suit me, you know? And with classics, again, there's like an added layer of like, these are books that were written a long time ago, and isn't it like relevant, I guess? Anyway, another thing is I wanted to buy this because there's a book that I read that was like based on this. Well, based on this, it's very much based on this. It's not like based on this, it's like based on this. It's called... I have no clue. I have no clue what it's called. What is it called? Come on. Wendy Darling? Peter Darling? Is it called Wendy Darling? No, it's not called Wendy Darling because that's just her name. Is it called Peter Darling? It might be Peter Darling. Hang on. Yes, it's called Peter Darling by Austin Chant. I read that beginning of last year, end of the year before. Something like that. I don't know. I read it some time ago, and obviously I also do know what this is about, so it's not like, oh, that's why it was interesting, because I had never known the story. But that story is really good, and I feel like with retellings and like with changes, with like quote-unquote fan fiction of the content, you have to like kind of read the content first. I don't know. Point is, I got this one. I also got this one. Moving on, last one. We have, okay, I'm going to cover up the name of the guy who blurbed it. This book, and you might imagine the guy who blurbed it's name just by the cover, because it is in fact Jeff Vandermeer. Can you see that? Yes, Jeff Vandermeer. I didn't read all of the Jeff Vandermeer books. I don't know what they're called. I read the first one, like the Annihilation books. I read the first one. It wasn't entirely my thing, but this is it wasn't entirely my thing, but it was an interesting take on... It was a very interesting story. I just read it on audiobook, and I don't think that was the best thing for me. I should have read it either physically, or it would have been very good as a podcast, I think. The point is, I did like the concept, I just didn't like the story. And this, in fact, is a detective story with some kind of element like this, I assume. The back is just very vague, and it like sets this very, strange and dazzling story. Sorry, not dazzling, that's from the blurb. It just sets up this very strange and like interesting kind of, with mystical elements infused detective story, and I think that could be very, very interesting. I haven't heard absolutely anything about this. Sorry, this is called Infinite Ground by Martin McKeens or something? McKeens? No, McKeens. Yeah, this is from 2016. I haven't heard anything about this, and it's like a debut novel, and everyone's saying, oh, it's the best thing I've ever read, even though it's like a debut novel. That's always what it says on the cover, so like, take it with a grain of salt, but this really interests me. This really like intrigues me. So yeah, that's my little haul, and I've been talking for 20 minutes and none of it made any sense. So, I also didn't say what this was called. This is called Out of the Deep by Walter Delamare. and Brideshead Revisited, and yeah, I am not a professional booktuber. So that was 20 minutes of rambling. These are the books, and I will see you later.